Hey there everybody, and welcome to another weekly blanket. Unfortunately I've slacked and missed a couple of weeks again, but hopefully I'll be able to get back to it. It's been kind of an interesting couple of weeks really. First off, it was kind of going okay. Nothing too crazy, and then we had something kind of big happen, and then school started and all this other stuff. So wrote down a couple of notes so that I could remember some of the things that I wanted to talk about. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was Nicholas in his started, I think I mentioned it on the previous video, that he started his own YouTube channel. And one of the things that he did for his first video was to draw something on a piece of paper. It was just basically kind of like his character that he calls Proper Awesome, and the way that he was doing the drawing was on a table, and so I tried to video it from above, and of course I knew that, you know, since he was going to be drawing it from his perspective, that it would be upside down in the video because of the way that the video was set up. But he actually recognized that that was the way that it was set up, so he drew it upside down so that it would be right on the video, and I didn't have to do anything to it, which really just kind of like, I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool that he was able to figure that out on his own, being only 8 years old, and being able to do that, because I don't think I could even draw really well upside down. So I thought that was kind of neat. The other thing that kind of happened was Elaina and actually Pam both replaced their phones. They were not working right, and they had to replace them. And with kids nowadays, and actually just everybody really, we're all into technology and, you know, being tied to our phones. So she had to have one of them replaced, and she had to send her old one back, and unfortunately the replacement that she got was not retaining a charge, or wasn't charging, so they tried a couple of different things and she had to send that one back as well. Well, during that time she was kind of like very impatient and really wanting to have a working phone, because she kind of lives on her phone pretty much all the time. But I was kind of okay with it too, because, you know, she was off her phone and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see in the future how much more that is, or how different that is for everybody. But one funny thing that happened during this time was Nicholas had, I had put him to bed, and so me and Pam were watching a show, Justified, which is an awesome show. But we were watching a show, and Nicholas all of a sudden came in and he's like, Lainey's in my bedroom and she won't leave. And I'm like, what? And so I'm like, okay, well, let's get her out of your bedroom. And so I was starting to walk him over to his room, and I looked at him and he was kind of like sort of a little bit groggy, and he wasn't really opening his eyes much. And so I peeked into Lainey's room just before we went into his, and of course she was laying in her bed. So I went in and into his bed, and he sleeps with his lights off, which is really great. But he was like kind of like got on his bed, and he's like, well, she's in here somewhere. And I'm like, no, she's not. She's in her bed. She's gone to bed, so don't worry about it, and just go back to sleep. And he went to sleep. And I asked him the next day, hey, do you remember coming into our room and telling us that Lainey was in your bed? And he's like, no, I don't. So he was sleepwalking, and he's kind of done that a couple of times before, but this one was actually by far one of the funnier ones. For whatever reason, he thought his sister was in his bed and wouldn't leave. The other kind of thing that Nicholas has been doing a lot lately, and I don't know if I mentioned it in a previous video or not, but he goes outside no matter how hot it is and swings on the swing set and has his headphones on, and he's listening to music and he's singing along to the music. And he does that pretty much like all the time, but it's really fun to watch him and do that. And he sometimes has concerts where we have to go outside and listen to him sing to the music while he swings, even though, you know, he doesn't always know the words to the songs and stuff like that, but it's still fun to do that. Then kind of the bummer thing that happened, Lainey, and I won't go into too much detail, but Lainey got an allergic reaction to some medication, but it was really, causing a lot of pain and stuff, and we had taken her to her pediatrician and then to another doctor, and then her pain was still there and it was not going away, to the point where we're like, all right, let's go to the ER. And so we took her to the ER, and based on the doctor's visual look of what was wrong with her, they were thinking it was something, a lot worse than what we were thinking. And of course it happened on a Friday is when we took her to the ER. So there wasn't a chance to, after they had done a test, there wasn't a way to figure out what the results would be until after the weekend. So we had, that whole time trying to think of, what's going on. And so it was really tough because she was in a lot of pain, and we tried everything. And, as parents, you hate seeing your kids suffer, and so you want to try to do whatever you can to help them, and we were just not able to help her and find medication that would help her. And then on top of that, finding out that it could be something even worse. But luckily on Tuesday, so we didn't hear back anything on Monday, but on Tuesday we finally heard back from the test results, and they said everything was fine. She is just having some sort of reaction, and she should be able to, or it should go away. So it did, thankfully, and luckily it was still 1 week before school started, so she had all that time to be able to get better. Just in time to go back to school. The one sad thing about going back to school was one of her friends, Holly, had moved to a different school, different area, and so her, what she considers to be her best friend right now, moved away. And so she didn't have her best friend in high school anymore, which was sad. And she didn't have classes with any other friends that she knows or hangs around with. So that was also kind of a bummer. So the first day of school was not the best for her. Nicholas had a great time. He did great. He's enjoying his classes so far. But luckily, as the week went on, she was able to find other people to talk to and hopefully be able to find some new friends. So that's my hope for her, is that she'll be able to find somebody else that she can hang around with. Although speaking of hanging around with, she goes to youth group, and she's been recently hanging out with somebody from the youth group, and it's a boy. Now, we've kind of talked it over between all the parents too, actually. And, we're like, we don't mind that they're hanging out, that they're friends and stuff, and so things like that. But it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of difficult being the dad too, of having her be that age now where, she's going to be hanging out with other boys and potentially having a boyfriend or something like that. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. But yeah, she's been kind of hanging out with this boy, and he's been coming over a couple of different times and just hanging out. He's a really nice kid. So as far as that goes, that's okay. But yeah, it's still kind of difficult. I guess that's really it. Their kids are back in school, and hopefully they'll continue to have good days, and we'll see what the next week brings. Thanks. Bye.